And then our final panelist here today is Matthew Fogg. Matthew is a retired Chief Deputy of the U.S. Federal Marshal Service and a member of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He received the District of Columbia U.S. Attorney and Federal Bar Association's highest law enforcement awards for tracking down over 300 of America's most wanted and dangerous fugitives. And after 32 years of service, Matthew retired following a final D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals decision finding USMS grossly violated his civil rights and was operating a racially hostile environment for African-American deputy U.S. Marshals nationwide. Matthew holds leadership positions in 3 nonprofit government watchdog organizations today. You can find him on Twitter at USMarshal77. Matthew?
Thank you very much, and it's good to be here, and thank you for the introduction, Kat. And I agree wholeheartedly with my 2 colleagues here, Steve and Jonathan, things that have been presented here, but I present a law enforcement perspective that also, just to augment and add to that, some of the things that I've observed. And one of the things, as you heard when you said, that for me to win a lawsuit even against the Justice Department, says that there were improprieties, a lot of things going on wrong on the inside. But one thing I always remembered, when I came out of the academy and I arrived at my duty station here in Washington, D.C., I remember the manager told me, says, Fogg, look, because I was this young recruit, all excited, had all of this training, point, shoot, when to shoot, how to use the First and Fourth Amendment rights, what your rights were, how to implement the law, so to speak, and was really excited about it. First thing he said to me was, Fogg, I know you guys learned all that stuff at the academy and all that. He says, listen, but this is how we do it here. And I always remember him saying that to you. This is how we do it here. And what I'm going to say to you about this is when we look at the body cameras and we say what types of solutions we can come up with to help us to maybe understand police better and maybe get a better understanding of the situation, we have to understand when I'm on that street as a law enforcement officer, I have a lot of discretion, and I have a network behind me that's going to back me up. Sometimes we call it the good old boy network, whatever you want to call it. But it includes police officers, includes prosecutors, includes judges. It's a whole network, and even those when we hit the grand jury. I remember when I sat on the grand jury, and I remember that close relationship that the U.S. attorneys had with the grand jurors, talking to them every day, communicating, laughing, joking together, coming together. So that right there had a major influence on those cases that they even brought before the grand jury, whether they're going to get indictments or not. What I'm saying to you is there's a network here that we're talking about. How do we build and how do we get into that network? Now, being a member of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP is a powerful organization because we nationally, across the whole country, we send a message out. The war on drugs is bad policy. But not only is it bad policy, and not only does it cost the country a lot of money, it's probably one of the most racist policies that has been instituted since slavery. And that's pretty powerful. But when you begin to look at the disparities in the numbers from the ACLU reports, I was a member of Amnesty International. We did a racial profiling report that indicated more people have been profiled since 9/11 than the population of Canada. I mean, I've seen so many reports that shows the disparities aren't close. They're so widespread that when we look and we see what happened in Ferguson, when we see what happened in New York, the chokehold, we're seeing this stuff now right on television. We saw this man be choked to death while he was saying, I can't breathe, and he was ultimately killed. We saw Rodney King get hit how many times with a stick? Watching this right on television. Everybody's saying, that is awful, that is crazy. But what happens? The officers don't get convicted. Because what happens is that network behind you says, this is how we do it here. So what I'm trying to say is this. Yes, body cameras are good. But it really, we don't know, to be honest with you, when all that information has gone back, and when you're sitting in front of a jury, and that officer is allowed to go back and rethink everything, because if you know the law is different when officers involved, they don't have to give a statement right away. There are all the protections that they have. And once they get back, people are telling them, I know, I've been involved in shootings. I know what they say. Look, you want to change this. You don't want to say this. You want to be careful how you put this forward. All of this is real, ladies and gentlemen. And what I'm saying to you is once that begins to happen, you take a year or 2 years for a trial to come up, that jury is sitting there and that jury is hearing the officer saying, oh, well, I believed, I thought he had a gun and I was threat for my life. And I remember one of my partners was killed 6 months ago or so-and-so was killed. So I felt a threat when he turned around and he looked at me with his hands up saying, don't shoot. I still felt a threat. And you're going to get people that are going to sit on that jury and is going to listen and say, you know what? I wasn't out there, and I know police officers have a lot that they got to go through every day. And so therefore, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. What I'm simply saying here is there is a lot in law enforcement that is wrong, but we need protection. I dare say to you this. When I won my case, everybody said to me first, Fogg, don't take on the Justice Department. Don't go forward. You know what happens to cops when they blow the whistle and they speak out. Your career will be destroyed, and not only that, but they will probably kill you or set you up in a stake. And believe it or not, that happened. My backup actually left me in a stakeout. My black partner, who also raised a discrimination complaint about the internal improprieties, wound up dead. Somebody ran his car off the road. They don't know who killed Bill Scott to this day. The white marshal that spoke up, he lost his job. He went to Congress and testified how they gave him a black rubber rat. He's holding that up before Congress. That's what they gave him in the squad bay. So what I'm saying to you is we've got these situations out here that we're looking at that are going on in Ferguson and down in Sanford, Florida. And mainly because, like I said, now it is an issue with the cameras and so forth. But this stuff has been going on, ladies and gentlemen, forever. It has been out there, trust me. With my 32 years of law enforcement, I saw a lot of questionable incidents that I had to tell officers right then and there, you're not going to do that in front of me right here. When I'm working with other departments, because see, as U.S. Marshals, I would work with Seattle, Miami, LAPD, New York PD. And I'm going to tell you, I saw some of the most egregious violations of your rights. And let me tell you something. You pull a vehicle over and a young man says to him, tell that officer, do I have some rights here? No, you can't search my car. Then they'll just bring a dog, and the dog's nickname is Alert. That's his nickname. He will alert on a deodorizer. What I'm saying to you is there are all kinds of ways to get around your First and your Fourth Amendment rights, if that's what I want to do. And see, most African Americans out there in the street, they know that, so they don't even want to challenge it a lot of times, because if you get pulled over and you're on your way to work or you're on your way to going somewhere, you know right there that officer can put you in a situation where he can either create a problem for you, so you just give him consent. You don't want to be held up for work. You don't want to go through these changes, so you give him the consent and you say, go ahead. Now, it's easy to stand back and say, no, I don't want you to search my vehicle, or all of the other rights that you have. But there's so many other things that come into play out there on that street. And what I'm saying is until we start to address those issues, until we start to really say to people, why are these disparities when we look at the same drug, crack cocaine, arrest, or and we look at the same arrest, the same incidents, but we see the numbers of, excuse me, the numbers of African Americans that are arrested, charged, and doing time for the same drug. I've always said, if the war on drugs was an equal opportunity enforcement operation, we wouldn't even be having the war on drugs issue today, because it would have been over the same way as alcohol prohibition. But because it's not equal, like that manager told me when I was working with DEA, he said to me, I said, look, we got all of our drug and gun interdiction task forces in all the urban areas. Miami, Seattle, Washington, but they were all urban areas we were focusing on. I said, don't they use drugs in Potomac, Maryland? Don't they use them in Silver Spring or other maybe more affluent locations? He said, yes, Fogg. Matter of fact, they use them probably more. They got the better stuff. He says, but if we go out there and start to lock those folks up, throw flashbangs in their homes, run through their houses, do all of the things that we do in our enforcement operations, you know what happened? We will get a phone call and they will shut our operation down. And there goes your overtime. There goes all your excitement, all your money and everything you're making. So you know what he said? They still using the drugs. Let's just go to the weakest link. and get our numbers up. And I told him that's ethnic cleansing. But this is what we have to look at. We have to understand this whole process and how it's working. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.